Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all for being here today. As you can see, LA is a city that's on the move right here. I want to appreciate all the folks that are here. Let me start with some thank yous because I know there's another van just pulling up as well, and I know Councilmember Krikorian is going to be joining us as well. But thank you to the council who is here today, who has been a critical part of the work that we are doing to make Los Angeles strong, clean, and just. Councilmember Mike Bonin, Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell, Councilmember Curran Price, and as I mentioned soon, Councilmember Paul Krikorian will all be with us here today. I also want to thank our general manager of LA SAN, which is short for Los Angeles Sanitation, our Bureau of Sanitation, Enrique Zaldivar. And I also want to give a hand to the men and women of this department who are up here, who every single day do the work. I was out with them a week ago, whether they're inspectors, whether they're folks who are doing the cleaning on the streets. We appreciate you, we see you, we care about you, and we thank you for all that you do. See, you wait long enough, and there it goes. Well, thank you all for coming today. We'll see you later. Just kidding. So, a couple things. One, I want to thank my colleagues on the City Council again, not only for the passion they bring to each of their districts, but their citywide leadership as well, in our fight to keep our city clean and our fight to end homelessness. And I also want to take a moment to recognize also Peter Lynn, who is with us, who is the head of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, for the work that his staff does. I was just at a training at a church on Friday in Hollywood, where we had the latest 100 or so outreach workers who are now part of an army of over 800, where at one point, at least serving the city portion, there was only 25 before Peter was head of LASA, before we started our work a few years ago. And that really represents a brand new army that is out there every single day having those interactions, oftentimes working very closely with the teams that are out there as well. And as I mentioned, I want to express gratitude to those line workers that are here with us today, the workforce that picks up trash, that washes down roads, that puts everything they have into serving our fellow Angelenos. It's an honor to serve with you. And we're here for a clear reason today. Homelessness is a massive emergency in our city. It's a crisis unlike anything that we've seen before. But I've always said I believe a human-caused problem, no matter how many decades in the making, can be a human-solved problem as well. And we have a responsibility to confront it everywhere we can. We have to recognize where our responses to encampments, to housing shortages, or issues around trash pickup and sanitation have come up short in the past, not make excuses, but redouble our efforts, and find, even in the face of more trash, of more tents, that it is our responsibility to make sure that the city gets better. We have to be ready to reorient our approach based on the conditions in front of us. When I came mayor, my slogan was back to basics, which we successfully have done, from paving our roads a record amount, improving our sidewalks for the first time in decades, trimming trees again. But it also starts on that street level of what we see, how dirty a street is in a neighborhood as well. And we have to be prepared to match our policies to the magnitude of the challenges before us. At the heart of our homelessness strategy is a multifaceted approach focused on delivering services to our neighbors and getting people off the streets. I love this city. I pour my heart into this city every single day. I can't think of a greater honor than living here and representing the people, the 4 million souls that call LA home, my neighbors, my family, my friends, and my constituents. But today we are putting forward one key step to tackle an immediate challenge, a new plan to build cleaner streets and to promote the public health. First of all, this doesn't take place in a vacuum. It's not like this is something we just woke up to today, and I again want to underscore what our Bureau has done over the last few years, as we've more than doubled and tripled the number of people that are out there on our streets cleaning proactively and responding to those 311 calls, council offices and others who are demanding when there's illegal dumping and other things on the street that we come. But today we announce an even more nimble, flexible, targeted, and sensitive approach to our streets, making sure that our homeless neighbors and everyone who calls Los Angeles home is treated with the dignity that they deserve, but also the services they expect. Right now, if you see garbage piling up next to an encampment, the system is pretty straightforward. You call 311 or use our great My LA 311 app, you put in a service request, and our sanitation department responds as fast as it can. But it's not enough. A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't meet the needs of all of our neighborhoods. So today we're putting forward a new plan that transforms our system by scaling up public health services, that cracks down on illegal dumping and makes all of our communities cleaner. To meet those goals, the City Council and I have a partnership that on top of the record 212 positions, that's 212 people who proactively go out there and clean up, who respond to calls, who see things themselves and take care of it. We're proposing to add another almost 50 people, 47 to be exact, to our workforce starting July 1st is the fiscal year, so we will start hiring them then to help get homeless Angelenos the help they need and to put more muscle into the work of keeping our neighborhoods clean. We're going to boost the number of sanitation teams on our streets by 50%, from 20 to 30, and invest over $6 million of additional funds in our sanitation crews with better equipment, extra supplies. And these commitments speak to what's right in the center of this plan, putting more workers on the streets, reducing our response times, and making sure we lead with services, not with law enforcement. And we use data to send teams out at times and places where they can do the most good. We will revise and revamp CleanStat, which is our system that tracks what's happening on our streets so we can get a more accurate picture of what's needed. We'll also adopt a regional approach where we no longer just wait for you to call and a reactive case-by-case complaint-driven model. We instead will also create neighborhood-based teams that form critical threads in the fabric of the communities they serve. That's a fancy way of saying they'll get to know each block, they'll get to know each street, they'll get to know the people who even live on the street as well. And we're going to deploy these new comprehensive cleaning and rapid engagement, or CARE, teams across LA. One per council district, one for the LA River, and one more for citywide support. Again, these are on top of the teams that already proactively clean. Our CARE teams will work in the same areas each and every day, so they'll get to know the people who live nearby, whether they're housed or unhoused. They'll get to learn where encampments are, who's living there, and what sort of assistance they may need. Our CARE teams will improve public health, enhance public services, and strengthen the public good through daily trash pickup. They'll travel regular routes each day. They'll check out trouble spots, make sure garbage is collected without unnecessary delays, and they'll be our first responders to 311 calls in their areas. And they'll ensure that the neighborhoods around our bridge home sites, which is our bridge shelter beds, will see passable sidewalks and cleaner streets. And I thank again the 5 neighborhoods that have already embraced incredibly successfully that model and the 20 more that are underway for this fiscal year. Simply put, the charge of our CARE teams is to provide service to the people of LA, services that are predictable, services that are efficient, services that take into account the public health needs of everyone, housed or unhoused. And on top of that, we're going to send out what we're calling CARE Plus teams. These are folks who will lead more comprehensive cleanups at our encampments, where we'll use data to deploy our workers and address encampments where cleaning services are needed most. Their efforts will be coordinated alongside our office, our Unified Homeless Response Center, which I invite any of the members of the press. I've been doing it for a year, but this is our Emergency Operations Homeless Center, our council offices, and our Homeless Services Authority as well. And when these CARE Plus teams lead these efforts, they're going to bring services with them. We'll pilot a new mobile hygiene station equipped with showers. We're looking at adding bathrooms where they're needed most, along with anything else required to support the health and well-being of our unsheltered neighbors, including the needs of some of those who are living in campers. Taken together, these steps will help us meet some of our core goals: to provide a services-led approach, to boost surveillance, and to expand enforcement of illegal dumping, which is 80% of the problem in LA, to expand the number of trash bins on our sidewalks and when they're collected, and to ensure regular trash pickup. That's the start of how we bring a cleaner future to our streets, but there's far more ahead. Soon we will begin rolling out steps to increase hygiene options for our homeless neighbors. We are forming a public health task force to bring all city resources under one roof. Now, it bears mention that the city is not usually tasked with this. The county is responsible for public health, but we and the county are one team. We don't single them out. They don't single us out. In fact, they've been doing enforcement downtown as we have, and over 120 citations between the city and the county just in the last 2 weeks have gone out to folks who are non-compliant with either public health and or the need to have a trash hauler. We are going to better coordinate our initiatives around rodent abatement, around disease management, and other health challenges. Just as we did when we heard about the typhus outbreak, 17 cases last year, this year 1 downtown in the first 6 months. Embedded in our plan is a pilot program to provide also jobs for our homeless neighbors. That's right, so they will provide we'll provide a stipend for our unhoused Angelenos who clean up around the encampments where they live. There's more details that are in the work, but rest assured we are spending every waking moment to confront this crisis and to do everything in our power to continue to improve how we best serve this city and our constituents, how we hold ourselves accountable for building safer and cleaner communities, and Angelenos, I know, are counting on us. Last thing, before I say a couple things in Spanish too, I just wanted to, I know many of you had coverage there, but I wanted to just remember Esmeralda Ramirez, LAPD officer who we laid to rest today as a in the line of duty death. She experienced a traffic accident in the Pacific Division in 2015, and surgery that followed recently as a result of that accident unfortunately led to her untimely passing. She leaves behind 3 incredible children and 3 grandchildren as well. We had a full honors burial for her, the 210th officer who has fallen the line of duty in the city of Los Angeles. Brevemente también en español quiero decir unas palabras, and then I'm going to hand it over actually to Mitch O'Farrell first because he has to get to committee with every other council member's indulgence. Enfrentamos una gran crisis en la ciudad de Los Ángeles. Tenemos que desplegar cada recurso que tenemos para resolverlo. Y tenemos que reorientar nuestro enfoque para mantener nuestras calles limpias y enfrentar la indigencia. Las comunidades de Los Ángeles merecen buenos servicios y estamos aquí para presentar una nueva estrategia de saneamiento que es ágil, flexible, preciso y sensible a las necesidades de nuestros vecinos sin hogar y todos angelinos. Nuestra meta es de transformar nuestro sistema con aumentar nuestros recursos y servicios de salud pública, aplicar la ley en vertidos ilegales y hacer todas las comunidades más limpias. Nuestro enfoque incluye nuevos equipos en cada distrito concejal donde tendrán recolección de basura regular. Y tenemos 6 millones de nuevos fondos y también estamos aumentando los equipos por 50%. 30 equipos proactivas en la ciudad de Los Ángeles limpiarán las calles y limpiarán la ciudad. Pero también ellos vendrán con servicios por nuestros vecinos en las calles, en sus automóviles, las personas indigentes. Este es un ejemplo del corazón de esta ciudad. Continuaremos a mejorar nuestros sistemas, continuaremos a dar más recursos a este problema y ganaremos esta lucha, esta crisis contra la indigencia y también para una ciudad limpia. With that, let me thank the chair of our Homelessness and Poverty Committee, who has just been a superb champion. He'll have the first HHH project, I think, open in his district. He has 2 and soon, I think, a 3rd of our Bridge Home facilities in his district, and he is led by example. I'm so proud to have him here. Please welcome Mitch O'Farrell.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I definitely wanted to be here for the announcement and the rollout of the CARE program. I think it's so important, and considering what our challenges are, it's so very critical that we are unified in our approach to solving the homelessness crises, and that's why we stand together today, and that's why we stand with our mayor in his efforts and his plans to really make a difference in this, as he mentioned, decades-long crises. You know what's interesting is, as the mayor was speaking, I was mindful of what most of us are already doing in our own council districts. I would argue all of us. And I think that what we have pioneered in our own districts have informed this process as well. We have some of the portable restrooms that are staffed in the 13th. We have 3 of those. We have needle exchange, drop-off receptacles. We engage on a daily basis with the homeless community in my district. And in fact, a couple of Sundays ago, On a Sunday, mind you, 2 of my staff members found an overnight and a long-term shelter for an underage homeless youth. So us council members know our districts and we understand the problem at a very, very basic level. And I feel that this CARE program, this initiative, is going to serve our lived experience in the trenches on all things homelessness and poverty. So, Mr. Mayor, I couldn't be more proud to stand with you today in that unified effort. And as was mentioned, I'm chair of the Homelessness and Poverty Committee, which is why I have to leave in just a minute to go chair the hearing. But to that end, you know, we do have Peter Lynn here of LASA, and on next week, we're going to hear one council agenda item, and that is the homelessness count report from 2019 with breakdowns of exactly what the categories and what the data will tell us. Some of the outstanding or I think dynamic results that we're going to really double down on are the fact that there are significant increases in homelessness in our families, in our youth, and in our seniors. Now, what's really good is that with the well over 5,000 units of permanent supportive housing already approved, funded, or being built, or a combination of all of those, within a couple of years, within a year, we're going to start seeing relief from some of those statistics. And some of those units, in fact, a certain percentage, will have 2 and 3 bedrooms. We're going to start housing homeless families. And the numbers would indicate that we're on the right track with that. There are reasons for growing homeless numbers as well, and it's economic forces. It is the majority of the newly homeless individuals. And it's not rocket science. It's skyrocketing rent and low wages or underemployment. That's one of the largest sort of takeaways from this count. So what I'm going to be working on with the mayor, with all of my colleagues collectively, we're going to be working on addressing the roots of poverty. What areas of our neighborhoods have the entrenched poverty levels that we have had a struggle with addressing? As long as I'm on the city council, I'm going to work on building an inclusive economy for Los Angeles. And what does that mean? It means that we'll address some of the other significant standing out data points from this count. For example, African Americans are way overrepresented in homelessness, as are Native Americans. What's that about? We're going to take a good long look at that. So we're going to have partners in this effort from the economic development community, from the business community, from the homeless advocacy community. Now is the time for all hands on deck to really elevate the very best ideas and lived experiences of people who know how to make a difference in this. It's not going to be me, it's not going to be many of us standing up here, but it will be all of us in collaboration. We'll consult with the experts who have success in these areas. So with that, while we're doing this, we'll also exercise our fiduciary oversight. There's been a lot said about there's money on the table and we're not taking advantage of it, or we don't care enough about those experiencing homelessness. That is such hogwash. Believe me, we're looking at all of the finances that are available through HHH, but we have to make sure that that money is spent wisely, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So with that, I again want to commend you, Mr. Mayor, and stand with you in the spirit of a unified approach where we are determined to address this crisis head on. And I think we're going to make a significant difference in the very, very near future. So thank you so much, and congratulations on this initiative.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Appreciate it. All right.
You bet.
Have a good committee hearing, and thank you so much, Councilmember O'Farrell. We appreciate you. Next, somebody who has been also a tireless warrior in this fight against homelessness. I've stood with him in town halls. I've seen him proactively put affordable housing and shelter beds throughout his district, and somebody who I know feels so deeply about this issue, not just of homelessness, but of course keeping our streets clean. It's a pleasure to be with him as well here today. Please welcome Councilmember Mike Bonin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks especially to the folks from sanitation for the plan they've put forward. I too need to dash off to a committee meeting. The first item on our Homelessness and Poverty Committee agenda actually is final approval of the lease for the bridge housing in Venice, which we are very much looking forward to getting built. But listen, let's be very clear. Our goal and our moral obligation is to get everybody off the streets, out of encampments, and into housing. Long-term housing, bridge housing, shared housing, reunification, whatever means it takes. That is our goal and that is our obligation. But at the same time, it is our responsibility to know that by tonight, that will not have happened. And tonight, there are going to be tens of thousands of people living in encampments in filth around Los Angeles. And tonight and tomorrow morning, there are going to be residents of Los Angeles who cannot walk on their own sidewalks. There will be people who cannot get into their businesses, and there will be school kids who have to walk in the street to get around encampments. And my feeling for a long time has been that our approach towards this problem has been wrong-headed, and that we have been spending a lot of money on a program that nobody was really particularly happy with, that wasn't making a visible dent in the problem. And what we are doing here today is restructuring this program. Thank you, Sanitation and Enrique, for your work on this, and repivoting this program. So instead of treating encampments as a trash problem, we are treating tens of thousands of people living in encampments as a public health crisis. With the county at our side, with the words of the UN report echoing in our minds, we are treating this as a public health crisis. The idea of having a law enforcement-led process that was an unpredictable, complaint-driven schedule was, as we've heard from social service providers, from LASA, actually disruptive to our goal of trying to get people quickly off the street and into housing. It inhibited the trust that needed to be built. What we are doing today is a fundamental rethinking of how we do that. The primary metric becomes public health. So if somebody is living on the streets, they have to go to the bathroom. So let's provide some toilets. If somebody is living on the street, there is trash that they will generate. So let's provide trash receptacles. If somebody is living on the street, let's provide showers. If somebody is living on the street in an encampment and they want to help clean it up, let's find a way to get them into the city's targeted local hire program and get them employed to expedite their process getting off the street. This is a different way of doing things, and it's the right way of doing things. And one of the reasons I know that is I have heard these suggestions from all over. I have heard these suggestions from people who are homeless. I have heard these suggestions from homeless advocates. I have heard these suggestions from neighbors. I have heard these suggestions from the city employees who are out there on the front lines. And yes, I have heard these very suggestions from the police captains in my district saying, we need to do toilets, we need to do showers, we need to do trash receptacles, we need to make public health the priority. And that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next, the chair of our budget committee, who has been stellar in guiding what is now a budget that is 50 times higher than it was just 4 years ago on homelessness, and that is a result of the good work he has done as budget chair and the city council. He's also equally passionate about getting shelter beds in his district and cracking the back of this crisis. Please welcome Councilmember Paul Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mayor Garcetti. And Mayor Garcetti, let me tell you how proud I am to stand with you today and to recognize and to let the people of the San Fernando Valley know that because of the program that the mayor has launched today, help is on the way. For too long, the San Fernando Valley has been left out of the homeless discussion, and our neighborhoods have suffered as a result throughout the San Fernando Valley. Right now, today, we have 2 teams dedicated to cleaning up the impacts of homelessness in the San Fernando Valley. With the implementation of that program, there will be 9 teams devoted entirely to serving the San Fernando Valley. That's a sea change in our ability to deal with the ramifications that come from our increasing homeless population in the San Fernando Valley, and it will make a dramatic difference in our quality of life. But at the same time, we also have to recognize that this is a problem that deals with the transitory impacts of homelessness, but it doesn't deal with the underlying causes of homelessness. We have to continue to stick with our diligence in addressing that by building more shelter, more housing, more opportunities for employment, more opportunities for services for our homeless population, so we can get to the ultimate causes of this problem. And I will say that this implementation plan encompasses that as well. And so I want to thank the mayor for changing our focus. I want to thank the general manager of sanitation, Enrique Saldivar, for embracing this and making sure that what we do when we're cleaning up homeless sites is also sometimes the only contact that city employees are going to have with that homeless population. And it's an opportunity that shouldn't be missed. It's an opportunity to reach out a hand, not just to sweep up the sidewalk, but to reach out a hand and lift someone up so that hopefully we won't have to be continuing to come back to that same spot again and again just to address the public health issues that are involved. But this will be a tool, one of many tools that we have to continue to utilize to bring people out from under the bridges and into permanent housing. And this program will help us to do that. But in the meantime, as long as we have an unhoused population that continues to grow in the San Fernando Valley and throughout our city, it's absolutely imperative that we address the impacts of that. That's what this program will do. And I have to say this too. The mayor heard us. The mayor heard from every council member in the city who has been begging for more services from sanitation to be able to do this. The mayor embraced that, took it upon himself, included it in his proposed budget, over $6 million devoted to this program to enhance cleanups throughout the city, and more importantly, not just to do the kind of cleanups that we've been doing, which in my view and in the view of many of us has largely been a waste of money, because we clean up a spot and then the same impact comes right back afterwards. This changed approach will mean not only do we address the public health issues, but we also reach a hand out and hopefully won't have to keep continuing to do the same thing over and over again, but will have a lasting impact for the benefit of our homeless population and for the benefit of our neighbors. And that's because of the visionary leadership of our Mayor, Eric Garcetti. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Appreciate you very much. Thank you very much, Councilmember Krikorian. Our last council member has some of the toughest parts of the city that have been most impacted by illegal dumping and also by the crisis of homelessness. But he too has far surpassed the goals that the council set for themselves for affordable housing, permanent supportive housing. I'm grateful for his leadership. He has helped work with us for a couple bridge home sites as well in his district. I'm so pleased he is here. Please welcome Councilmember Curran Price.
Thank you. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to just commend our mayor for his strong commitment to protecting public health by keeping our streets clean and residents safe, and by taking specific and swift action to improve the environment. I'm also proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with my colleagues Mike Bonin, Mitchell Farrell, who had to leave us, and Paul Krikorian. I want to also thank LA Sanitation and General Manager Enrique Saldivar. You're going to be hearing from Enrique. Let's give it up for the Department of Sanitation for their continuous efforts to create a more livable and sustainable environment for all Angelinos. And finally, our director from LASA, Peter Lynn, also whom we're going to be hearing from. This has really been a collaborative effort, and it's going to become even more collaborative as we move forward. Today marks a fresh start and a new approach to solving the unprecedented humanitarian crisis that affects every corner of our city. Our most vulnerable citizens have been living in conditions that frankly should not exist anywhere in the U.S. My wife and I personally witness it every day outside our home on 38th and Main. When I first took office, our alleys were clogged with illegal dumping. The streets were continuously covered with litter from lack of trash cans. You couldn't walk down the street without seeing a discarded fast food cup, a candy wrapper, or a losing lottery ticket. Through the years, we made some headway. That never wins.
Yeah, never
Through the years, we made some headway, but it has not been nearly enough. It hasn't been enough for our kids to walk to school. It hasn't been enough for our seniors to take a stroll around their neighborhoods without trash. Residents are fed up with the mounds of trash from encampments ranging from feces to feminine hygiene products, and the list goes on and on and on. We don't need temporary Band-Aid solutions. We need a permanent fix. And today I'm proud to say we're closer to that. This is not something that we can do quickly without stops and starts or mistakes. And certainly it takes innovation and creativity. We are not just having to think outside the box, but we're constantly having to redefine the box itself. Together, I know that we can and we will. This year's budget process was a thoughtful process, and with the mayor's guidance provided an unprecedented amount of resources, from maintaining our tree canopy to making sure that low-income families like the ones I represent can afford to go to the zoo. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and our budget chair, my colleague Paul Krikorian, for their leadership and making sure that the poorest areas receive the level of services they deserve and have a fundamental right to. LA Sanitation has proven to be up to the challenge, even when their critics weren't so sure. Some said they were doing too much, some said they weren't doing enough. I'm proud to say that CD9 is going to benefit greatly from this year's budget. We will have dedicated Hope Team for the Grand Flower Corridor, where dedicated Spa 6 service provider Hopix and LASA have been doing work all they can do to get folks off the street for the last several years. We will have a paid response team that includes cleaning and engagement to address those pressing issues that just cannot wait. And we all receive those calls 24/7. Besides the additional woman or manpower, we're giving our homeless residents the power to help themselves. There are people out there who have the capability to make every house a home, even one on the streets. They sweep their area every day, they keep their tent or structure tidy, and even some who encourage and who help others to keep the area clean. And we want to work with our homeless neighbors in this effort. So I want to thank everyone here that's making this possible, this initiative possible. I'm looking forward to getting people housed. But meanwhile, let's meet the needs where they are. Meet these basic needs: cleanliness and hygiene. Like I say to our residents, keeping the new Ninth clean is all of our responsibilities. So thank you for joining us in that fight.
Finally, I'd like to ask the general manager who oversees this incredible team. It's one of the largest departments in our city. We often, rightfully so, thank our police officers, our firefighters, but really it's our sanitation workers who are right up there with them, doing some of the toughest, hardest work in the city, and they're led by a great general, or generalissimo. Please welcome the one and only Enrique Zaldivar.
See, when the mayor teases me, he does it in Spanish. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, honorable council members. Thank you for providing LA Sanitation and Environment with the resources to rise to the challenge, to meet the service demands, to remove solid waste brought about by the proliferation of illegal dumping, which disrespects the dignity of our very communities, at the very least, but also committing an egregious crime for sure. Los Angeles has the solid waste management infrastructure and services in place for everybody to be able to handle waste the correct way, the dignified way, the respectful way. There are no excuses for illegal dumping. In providing us with resources, you also expect us, as all of you have indicated, to be effective, efficient, and innovative at every turn. the proposed deployment plan for our Livability Services Division. And I want to echo the appreciation that all of you expressed for our Livability Services Division, the woman force, and the women and men of our Livability Services Division, which is headquartered in this very facility. You can see we're nimble. We don't spend a whole lot of money on our buildings and deployment centers. All of our money is spent actually in services. Thank you, all of you, for your relentless commitment and tireless commitment to our great city, to our mission to protect public health and the environment, to our city leaders. We are committed to all of you, and to our city residents. Indeed, this new deployment plan is a re-engineering of our deployment strategy. As we render our services to protect public health and in the cleanup of homeless encampments, we will do so while engendering trust with the homeless communities and the communities surrounding them. This is a new value that will drive our deployment and our service engagement in the streets, which we know will lead to self-empowerment and self-service in cleaning up trash and litter by the homeless community themselves. We've seen it. We've tested it. It works. By LSM providing bags, receptacles, and trash collection will go a long way in building that essential trust. By us including hygiene centers, as the mayor alluded, as part of our comprehensive cleanups and to protect public health, first and foremost, we know it will build trust. Trust and public health protection is the essence of the new care model, cleaning and rapid engagement model. And by virtue of our services and the engendering of trust, we believe that the construct of a platform of services can be built that will help lead Angelenos experiencing homelessness on a pathway to recovery and ultimately to a new beginning. Know that all 30 care teams, 17 care and 13 care plus in this deployment plan, and all of us here at LA SAN, all 3,500 of us employees in LA SAN, in partnership with our sister agencies like LASA and Peter, are fully committed to ensuring that the new plan is successful. Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Enrique. With that, happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, Peter Lynn is also here for any questions on homelessness too, but yes, starting over here. Yeah. Yeah. I'll speak to that after questions on this. I'm more than happy to. Yes.
It can be said that you're winning the battle, but losing the war.
Sure.
Doubling the number of people who are
Yeah. Right.
Well, every day, 17 more people coming in. What can you do tomorrow? Not just
Yes. Thank you, because I think long before even the numbers came out for the last 3 months, that's exactly what I've been saying. I expected these numbers to come up. There was a silver lining. It was a third to half of what the state went up on average, which to me is evidence that H and HHH aren't being wasted. It would have been 2 or 3 times worse without it. But we also know that those efforts this year, starting July 1st, we have 1,700 units of housing coming online. And thanks to these council members and their colleagues, we'll see 20 more bridge home facilities, which is about 1,200 more beds that'll get turned over about 3 times, 3,600 beds plus 1,700 beds. That would have wiped out the deficit county-wide of the increase in homelessness. People understand it takes time to get a building built, and we have not taken that as an excuse to slow down one iota. I invite any of the members of the press too to come to our weekly meeting where we literally go through each site. Where an engineer says there was a pipe there, I say, what are we doing this week to finish that? I chaired that last week myself personally. So we bring that sense of urgency, but I'll give you a couple more things I would like to see more of. One is national leadership. If people think cities are going to solve this on their own, especially when it's counties that have social services, mental health, hospitals, jail systems, foster care systems, all the things that are driving people into homelessness, then we will never win the war. We need to support, and I convened last Friday, Maxine Waters and I co-convened a meeting in my office. She's the chair of the committee that oversees housing and financial services in America. She's introduced legislation for a $13 billion Marshall Plan on homelessness for this entire United States of America. Ted Lieu is also there, and together with Senator Feinstein, they've introduced legislation for health and human services to similarly do that. Second, the state. I praise and thank the state for stepping up. That was due to mayoral leadership of 11 mayors that marched up and told Governor Brown and found a legislative sponsor, and we got the Homeless Emergency Assistance Programs, $500 million, which is less than what we asked for, but a good start. Gavin Newsom increased that a little bit, and we hope this week the Senate and Assembly will pass that budget, send it to him, and we know to spend those dollars literally days later. But again, it's about, we asked for $2 billion, this is going to be about $600 million, so $650 million. We need probably 2 or 3 times that. Third, we have to get to the core causes of what's causing people to be homeless. Because as you mentioned, if you told me 3 years ago, Mr. Mayor, you'd go from 9,000 people successfully housed a year to almost 22,000, I'd be saying we're on our way home. We have done our work. We put the focus in. We went to voters not just once, but twice. We have the funds unprecedented. We put our own money where our mouth is and increased by 50-fold the city budget on this. But clearly something is wrong because even more people are going into homelessness. My opinion is twofold. One is we need the state to help us give more protections to keep people from getting out there on the streets. They might be one piece of legislation they'll successfully pass, but 4 or 5 other bills that would have given, in an emergency setting, the ability to cap rent increases, to prevent illegal evictions, to change Costa-Hawkins and Ellis Act, things that we obviously can't get into a press conference, but important drivers of what's putting people out on the street would be a big help. City isn't waiting in the meantime. This year, starting July 1st, the council will figure out how it's going to be spent. We're going to have legal counsel for people facing illegal evictions, so they can have a lawyer before they sign something that a landlord pressures them to sign that kicks them out of a place they have the right to stay in. Legislation like what Mr. Bonin has just put forward to making sure people's homes are not rented out for short stay folks, but actually to people who need housing in the city. And then working proactively on positive things. We're sitting down with landlords to say, even in a tight market, there are units available. What can we do? Or if there's a new construction, it takes you 2 years to fill out that apartment building, can we pay you to put people in for 6 months? So then we can transition them to permanent housing. Those things together, I'm confident we will not only address this, we will win this war. I'm committed to nothing less. These folks are committed to nothing less, and I know this city is too. What we're doing, I had somebody come to the city of Los Angeles, Christina Miller. People have asked for a homeless czar. We have our first deputy mayor for homelessness. She's here, I think, with us today or over there. Was giving a presentation. She said, you know, people come from around the country now looking at the LA model. In other places, they're saying you're doing everything you're supposed to. You're doing an all-the-above approach. You're looking at accelerating everything from using shipping containers to build housing. We have a contest that closes later this week to build 1,000 units of housing for $120 million. My strong opinion is that everything we're doing is working, but my strong opinion is that's not enough. And secondly, it's not preventing people who are entering homelessness. And the city doesn't have the power or the departments to address that on our own. In fact, most of those things aren't even under our jurisdiction. So as we look at a mental health crisis in America, an addiction crisis in America, we're doing everything we can. Did you know that there's fire department vehicles that now pick people up who are overdosing or extremely drunk, and instead of sending them to the hospital to sober up and go back and repeat it, they're sending them to sobering centers we've opened with the county and breaking that cycle for folks. So my general managers, my chiefs are stepping up heroically. This council has supported me. Anybody who says you got to knock the heads of the council together to open things up, these are people who are fighting those battles. I've been at those town halls with them, and they're saying yes. When people hit the streets in Koreatown, you get the headlines, but 6 weeks later, it's when it gets resolved. There's no screaming headlines. The shelter's going there a few blocks away. Those things are working, but we need more.
Mayor,
Yes.
adding hygiene centers.
Absolutely.
Part of this big plan. How many?
Sure.
Being laid out down around
So the CARE program is not the only way we're addressing hygiene, but it's one of the first times we're adding 2 teams hygiene at the same time. So when people are seeing a sidewalk where they have their tents where they are living cleaned up, we also want to say, hey, there's a place that you can get clean, maybe take a shower, go to the bathroom, etc. We've already started that. You see them, the off-ramp at Alvarado, we see it downtown. We have plans for the Homeless Emergency Assistance Program, the state funds, to put even more. I can have Christina tell you some of the details of the numbers. I don't have them offhand in my head. We also have council members like Councilmember Cedillo, who's going to be looking up in one of his neighborhoods of keeping our parks facilities after everybody's gone home and it's nighttime, putting some staff there and allowing those showers and bathrooms to be used at the nighttime for folks that are unhoused in those neighborhoods. So we are going to look at existing facilities. We're going to roll out with sanitation workers some pilots to see if that works well in these cleanups. Plus, we're continuing to expand what we have permanently, especially in Skid Row. I made a pledge that the biggest commitment will be a redoubling of what has been a runaway success of the showers, washing machines, toilets that are called the Refresh Spot. We're going to be looking at doing a second one that downtown. I don't think people can get to a place of being served until they have their basic hygiene needs met and they can feel like a human being. So we'll get you the details of the numbers. Okay? Yeah. This plan has probably been in the work for about 4 or 5 months, I would say. I mean, we've developed it with our budget this year. I mean, realistically, it's been part of this entire year's budget process, which starts July 1st of any year, or July 2nd, I should say. So on July 2nd, we sit down, we ask departments what their needs are, we start listening to what we've heard, and so we started laying the groundwork for that to include that in this budget, but it certainly evolved and was added to and improved along the way when council members gave us feedback, advocates gave us feedback, sanitation workers gave us feedback. You know, I want sanitation workers to be safe, but that doesn't mean you need 5 cop cars and scare people that are out there, and I love our police officers who do a great job. We've had some sanitation workers who have had personal harm come to them physically, and I want them to know they will be safe and that there will be folks if they need them. But that's different than leading with services and leading with predictable times. So, you know, I would say realistically it's been 3 or 4 years of improvements, and this is the latest year of it, but it was something that certainly wasn't, we didn't wake up 2 weeks ago with homeless numbers that I knew were going to be up and say, oh, we got to do something. This has been a well thought through, evolved plan that is addressing the needs on our streets. Yes. Yes. Yes, we do. Thank you for the question. So if you couldn't hear, it was the 80% as we did a press conference, was it last week? 2 weeks ago on this. A lot of people, I think, often conflate all these issues together. Homelessness is up. All illegal dumping must be because of encampments. That's leading to pestilence and rats and stuff like that. And, you know, hence this is all about homelessness. We wanted to correct that record. There certainly is a need, and that's what we're talking about here today, to address health around where people are living on the streets. But 80% of the tonnage that we pick up of trash on our streets, and I don't mean what we collect in our bins, but what is dumped on our streets, is the result of illegal dumping. So we have folks who have been out there, undercover officers, officers in uniform. There's law enforcement officers that are part of the Bureau of Sanitation. And we've, as I mentioned, together with public health, wait one sec. Combined with our, can you hear? Yeah? Combined with our public health, county public health partners, we've issued over 120 citations, I believe, just in the last couple weeks. At the press conference 2 weeks ago, we learned that, I think, and we've added to that, there's 67 businesses just in the downtown area where some good journalism showed the impact of dumping, that 67 businesses didn't have a trash hauler, which is illegal and against the law, 67 of them. So we are very serious that this is, as I said 2 weeks ago, breaking the law. That you are taking advantage of all of us who pay for our trash services. You are trashing our public space, and you are causing a public health nuisance. We first seek to educate. We then seek to slap people on the wrists. But after that, there will be serious consequences. Press also raised the question about why we don't have more cameras up. A couple of those have already gone up, and the rest will be going up. We have cameras in other parts, but we are doing, whether it's sting operations, whether it's looking at folks, it's often that a lot of people have not paid for the trash services they need to have, and we're working now with every franchise in the city that works with businesses to survey how many businesses in that area don't have a trash hauler. That's against the law, and it needs to be corrected. If people don't correct it, they will be met with the force of the law. No, we had scheduled this long before. 2 weeks ago, we had a press conference before I even knew about that. So I reject that outright. Sure. You know, Today's one of those days that kind of puts life in perspective. When you put a police officer to rest, any day you wake up and you have your health is a good day. Any day you come home to a loved one is a good day. And any day that you can make this world a better place is a good day. So for me, this is a good day. And I think the last thing we need are political games, when what we need to have is a unified team. One that you see here, one that we've carefully built with our county and our city. People understand homelessness is a very difficult problem, and people understand what political games are, and I think they can see the difference. And to me, I am never going to stop addressing this problem. It is my passion. It is my mission. I've done that long before there was any cameras, when I was 14 years old on Skid Row, and I won't stop until we house every Angelino. ¿En español también? ¿Quiero? Okay. Este día es un gran día. Un día donde tenemos nuestra salud, nuestras familias, y tenemos la oportunidad a cambiar el mundo. Es un gran día. Y no necesitamos partidos políticos, necesitamos una coalición a confrontar el problema de la indigencia y a limpiar las calles de Los Ángeles. Yo tengo una gran pasión para estas dos cosas y continuaremos a limpiar nuestras calles, ayudar a nuestros hermanos y hermanas en las calles, y yo creo que la gente puede ver partidos políticos cuando ellos nos vean. Cuando una persona, una gran amiga de Donald Trump, un apoyante de este es partidos políticos, no es un parte de nuestra lucha contra la indigencia, pero toda la gente están invitados a ser un parte de esta coalición, el condado, el estado, el gobierno nacional, y ellos continuarán a luchar y ganaremos esta lucha. Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
There's a lot of LA economic vitality rolling back.
Yes, there's a lot of LA economic vitality, at least until the next round of threatened tariffs. They're rolling right by us. Yeah. I always take everything seriously. I'm never glib, but I meant what I said. I don't live for the criticisms of today or the headlines of tomorrow. I try to govern looking at 10 years from now. What will we have done to make our city a better place? And I find that stopping and thinking too much takes time away from what we really need to be doing, which is solving the problem. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.